Let's talk about coffee.
I'd like to consider myself as somewhat of a coffee fan. I'm not like as hardcore, say, as some of those espresso people. That's not me, but I definitely like my cup of go-go juice in the morning. Toning can really make your darkroom prints pop, and I feel adds kind of like a really cool vintage vibe. So in this video, I want to share with you guys my process for toning with coffee, and really just finding the times with whatever you're using. Probably not the best way, might not even be the correct way, I don't know, but it's the way that works for me, so here it is. It's worth noting that the different types and thicknesses of paper are going to react differently to toning. The times I'm sharing here are related to the specific paper that I'm using, which is Ilford Multigrade RC Pearl Portfolio. Whenever I'm printing, I'll always save all of my test strips, the misprints, the mess-ups. I throw them in a pile, and then I'll put them in a box. I save them for later. And then times like this, when I'm kind of experimenting or I need to find times and get tones and colors right, I pull out the box of misprints, and then I test on those. My setup is pretty straightforward. I use 3 trays, one filled with water for a pre-soak, the second is for the coffee, and the third is for a water rinse. For small prints, I usually use the 8x10 trays with about 500 milliliters of water in both the pre-soak and the rinse trays, and I'll brew about 4 to 6 cups of coffee for the coffee tray. Once your trays of liquid are good to go, then I usually take a couple of the misprints and a permanent marker or a Sharpie, and I'll write on them a few different times that I want to try. Typically, I'll test out 1 minute, 2 minute, and 5 minutes, and from there, that kind of gives me a good idea of a starting point. Pre-soak for 2 minutes. Submerge in coffee for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Dip and momentarily agitate in the rinse water. On a flat surface, use a squeegee to remove the excess water. Place somewhere flat, face up to dry. I usually use like stainless steel cookie racks. Since I like my prints to have more of a lighter color, I'll use 1 minute and 30 seconds normally as a starting point. If the color isn't dark enough, you can just throw it back in the coffee for an additional 30 seconds, rinse it, squeegee it, and reevaluate. And you can always go darker and retone as many times as you need if you're unhappy with the color. Also, the reason that I pre-soak the prints beforehand is I found that it reduces the blotchiness, and this is a little bit more relevant with fiber paper as opposed to RC, but I just do it as a practice on both paper anyway. And it's good to note that this only needs to be done at the very beginning. So you can pre-soak it, and then as you tone it, if you want to retone it, you don't have to pre-soak it again. If the initial color isn't good enough, you can just pop it back in the coffee after you rinse it, and then just repeat that step as many times. You don't have to go back to the first step of the pre-soak.
What type of color can I expect from the coffee?
You can have a print tone with coffee go from a nice off-white all the way up to like a darker brown. It really just depends on how long you let it sit, so whatever you prefer. Make sure all of your corners are totally submerged and the print is submerged in the liquid at all times. This kind of seems obvious, but you're definitely going to get some uneven color otherwise. When it's drying, make sure there is no pooling areas of water on the print. The squeegee is really going to help a lot with this. Even the rinse water can cause unevenness. Some people like to hang up their prints to dry, but I've found that the color can actually run to the bottom of the print, so I'll lay them flat. The strength of the coffee will affect the color, so I try to be consistent with measuring out 1 tablespoon per cup when I'm brewing. When the prints are dry, check on the back because you may have some light streaking or staining, which can usually be removed with the damp cloth and water. Toning with coffee is definitely going to be my favorite, but as far as non-chemical options, I mean, you have tea, you have wine, basically anything that's going to stain your shirt could stain a print, so the options are out there. hope this was helpful. And if you guys have anything to add or you're familiar with toning with coffee, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Until the next video, we'll see you.